Stormzy. He bowled into the studio, quite an imposing looking 6'5" guy coming in with a massive smile that immediately disarms you, and told me about his vision for Gang Signs and Prayer. And as soon as he was saying that, I could hear the music of that we were going to make.
I'm going to go in with a hard-hitting question straight away then.
Okay.
What does it take to get a #1 hit single?
Well, billion dollar question. I mean, if I had that answer, Edith, would be, I've been thinking about that for like 30 years, I guess. I mean, people, I guess, want to move. We want to move, or we want to be moved.
Yeah. So
amplifying the emotional quality, amplifying the groove, putting those two things together. But I mean, it's like finding Excalibur. That you do your best. But I mean, also, I think I would say that the tracks that I've had that have been hits, they always seem quite accidental. You know, you're chasing one thing.
Yeah.
And you're just chasing greatness, and then something amazing happens, and people seem to feel the same way that you do, which is in the studio, turning the music up and something sounding amazing, and you sort of think, well, this feels pretty infectious to me, and then when other people validate those decisions that you've made along the way, it's the most incredible feeling. But I don't think I've ever chased that per se.
Yeah. I mean, whether it's the list that the time we've got today is kind of sort of so hard to even kind of scratch the surface with the work that you've done. But whether it's, Adele or Sam Smith or Kano or Dave or Stormzy or Easy Life or Kasabian, huge list of artists that you've worked with, does it always start from one place? Because the thing that I picked up from what you said there is that it's about connecting. It's about there being a truth in what's been said or sung or spoken. And is that part of it for you, of kind of getting to the soul of what that artist is trying to say, or get to the root and the seed of what they're trying to say within that song?
Absolutely. I mean, when I first met Adele, when I first met Stormzy, when I first met Kano, there is something about these incredible people. I'm sure you feel the same because you've met all of these people, that just radiates this intensity and this vision, and you think, you just feel very, very humbled to be in their presence, but you also know that you have to match them in their intensity. So with Stormzy, he bowled into the studio, quite an imposing looking 6'5" guy coming in with a massive smile that immediately disarms you, and told me about his vision for Gang Signs and Prayer. And as soon as he was saying that, I could hear the music of that we were going to make. So I could hear the prayer side, I could hear organs and strings and the orchestration, but then with the Gang Signs I could hear the kind of beats that we've been making. So those kind of amazing meetings, you just think, I felt pretty sure that we'd do something great together.
Yeah. When you sort of go back to the start of your journey with music and making music, did you have did you have an aspiration or a dream of what it would be that you would do in the future, of what that thing was that you wanted to try and attain? Or, was there a dream? Was there a thing that you wanted to achieve?
I just fell in love with music from an early age, but not in a lesson music kind of grade type of way, but just playing. I had some relatives that had a piano, and I just didn't know what I was doing, but was just playing. But then growing up, I just knew I wanted to be involved in music playing. So my music room at school was interesting because it had Tom Rowlands in it, so from the Chemical Brothers, and we formed like this musical kind of partnership really early on, and didn't really know what we were doing. We were just jamming, and he was pretty much doing then what he does today, which is tinkering around with electronics and guitars and beats, and so it was incredible to see what he's done. But also, I mean, it makes me sound very old, which probably
You're
I am.
not.
But
It's just a number.
But there wasn't YouTube, so you couldn't Google what is a music producer, and I didn't know. And in those days, being a music producer was quite a sort of dark art. Everything happened behind the the doors of the studio, and
Yeah.
no one else was kind of privy to that. So I just knew that I wanted to be in a band and play. So my early days, I was a guitar player for Craig David and Rick Wakeman and Tony Hadley, and just learned music through working with these great people.
Yeah. And you got to play guitar again recently at a small venue, Nebworth. How
Yeah.
was that on stage with Kasabian?
Well, that was a dream come true. I mean, that was the biggest gig I've ever done. But
Wow.
with Serge and with Kasabian having produced their latest record, so I had that connection with Serge. Rob Harvey, who usually plays with them, couldn't do a few gigs, so
Yeah.
Serge said, "Do I want to step up?" And I said yes. I remember on a wet Sunday night, and then put the phone down and went, "But shit, I haven't played guitar for like 25 years, so how am I going to?" So I literally had to woodshed in the studio every day, like playing with a metronome and getting back up to speed.
So great. You mentioned, I mean, we were talking earlier, Kano's probably the longest standing relationship that you have with an artist. How long's that relationship been?
That's 20 years.
Wow. And
Yeah.
it's amazing when you think about, you're talking about YouTube wasn't around. That 20-year relationship within that, technology must have changed in your world hugely. But
Yeah.
has the change in technology changed how you approach what you do, or how you've worked with Kano, for example, over those years?
I think I feel this strange kind of duty to try and keep some of the old recording processes
Yeah.
together. I mean, I'm very aware of everything, and I love taking my laptop away, and did that recently where I came up with loads of music and find it very freeing to come out of the studio with a laptop. And I love the way that GarageBand, and we were saying it earlier when we were with your son, and Logic is so accessible, and I think everyone should be able to make great music, and you can.
Yeah.
You know, that's great. But I think, maybe rightly or wrongly, I think that people like Stormzy and Kano and Dave are coming to me to add some of the old school
Yeah.
kind of techniques, you know, and to put some things on analog tape, or to try and amplify the sound that they've got, and to try and add some of that analog warmth.
Because what I find as well at the minute, and I'd be really great to chat to you about how you discover new music. And when you came on the podcast last year, Play Next, that we do with BMW, to kind of really sort of talk about new music, it's interesting how you find new music, because I imagine that with artists like that, when they become so successful, I find it at the minute when I'm listening to stuff, you have 20 new artists who are trying to sound like Billie Eilish. And it's like, don't do that. Find your voice. Find the thing that makes you you, that will distinguish you from other people. And I always find that that's something that I feel that you do with every artist you work with, is you're kind of steering them away from almost what people expect them to do. And it's encouraging them to find something that's them and that's unique.
I mean, I'm not doing that consciously. I'm going back to Stormzy, he was very, very open about what he wanted.
Yeah.
And it was interesting seeing Zane Lowe's conversation earlier, how the kind of therapeutic role that you can take, really just sitting down and talking and listening and trying to understand, and
Yeah.
going with Dave to meet his brother in prison, because his brother is the person that he relates to
Yeah.
most in the world. So going to meet him and doing all those other things that you want to do, because you want to get as close as you can to the artist. And then I think then the good music comes from
Comes
that,
out of the
because you're
side.
on a deeper sort of level.
Yeah. How do you decide who you are going to work with them? Because, we'll talk about this lovely journey that you've gone into making your own stuff for you with Future Utopia, but with the success that you've had, you must have people coming to you all the time who want to work with you, who kind of, please come and work on my single or album, whatever it is. How do you filter that? How do you decide on the people that are right or that you want to work with?
I think I just listen to loads of music all the time, and things which pop out as being a little bit different, things which are going against the grain.
Yeah.
I think one of the difficulties, I mean, commercially, is that I tend not to repeat myself. So talking about Future Utopia was born out of working on Kano's Made in the Manor, and then Stormzy's Gang Signs and Prayer, and then Psychodrama. And then I just thought, I'm like a fraud to myself and to music if I then work on Jay Huss's record or to work on
Yeah.
more records like that. So that is always, I sort of feel like I'm at the edge of a cliff a lot of times, going into something completely different.
Let's talk a little bit about Future Utopia and 12 Questions, and you talk about how that started. But what did you want it to? What was the purpose for you for it? Because it's got such a depth to it, and it's got almost like a meditative quality to it, and a real kind of important quality to make you as a fan and a listener to question things.
I was taking some time out after those 3 records that I made and had a big whiteboard in a studio. My studio was actually being built at the time in my house out in the country. So I had a little office that I was working out of, and I just started putting down ideas, and some of the ideas were these questions, and I thought the first question was, what's the cost of freedom? And obviously these questions were obviously bubbling up inside me, and then came up with why are we divided when we're so connected? And I came up with the 12 questions, and I thought, well, this is really cool, but is this like a Netflix thing where I go and ask really interesting people their views on this and record it, or what is it? It wasn't actually a record per se, and then the more I got to thinking about it, I was like, why are we divided when we're so connected? I'd love to ask Dave that question and just see what music that inspired within him. And then I got Ez Devlin involved in that and got invited to go and meet Albert Woodfox, the Black Panther, at his house in New Orleans, and spoke to him and recorded it and put some amazing music. And it was literally the most joyous 2 years of my life musically to immerse myself in all these amazing opportunities of speaking to these people. So, and learning from them and making this sort of tapestry out of these great people.
Is there going to be more?
There definitely is. Yeah, I've got singles.
More questions.
No more questions, I think. Maybe answers. So my new single's called Love is the Answer.
Yeah.
And love is all there is. And it's taken more of an electronic, sonic, and I'm really excited about this next phase. It's less conceptual and more hard-hitting, I think. So I basically started wanting to play live, and with an album with like 29 collaborators on it, going out and playing a medium-sized gig was pretty impossible, you know. So I think you have to get to like Stormzy's level at the pyramid stage where you can kind of bring all that together. So I started DJing, which has been one of my passions through life.
Yeah.
DJing some electronic music and putting the acapellas that I had, the vocals on top of that, and I was like, wow, this sounds really cool. So then went to do a few gigs and it worked and people liked it. So I've now kind of reverse engineered it. So started making the electronic music, and I can then add some spoken word or some vocals and some samples into that. So that's super exciting. So I've been around checking out new music through being at festivals and just going to see new music.
Like something like Easy Life, with their debut record, Life's a Beach, which is phenomenal. And I was saying to you earlier as well, I think one of the best things that I get excited about is when you can't describe a band or artist's music. And that's, for me, they're a great example of that because they're a real kind of sort of melting pot of different genres.
Yeah.
How important is genre to you as a producer?
It's not. And I think that the term, and I get it, I guess I get why things have to be classified into different boxes and playlists. But for me, going back to Kano, working with him on Typical Me, which was essentially a grime beat with electric guitars all over it, that just didn't happen at the time. Through to working with Stormzy and working on Big for Your Boots, but also Blinded by Your Grace Part 1. So what I love about rap music is that there is no genre. And I think hearing Clara and Emily talking about Kendrick, these kind of artists, that's where genres are blurred, and that's the kind of music that I want to be involved in.
And it also kind of breaks down the kind of barriers of art as well, in terms of the kind of almost the compartmentalization of different art forms. And he did that, I think, with that performance at Glastonbury in terms of it was like an installation. It was just so many different things. And that's kind of important as well, isn't it?
Hugely, hugely. And I think with the Future Utopia project, we wanted to add the performative elements. My wife made a sculpture for the live shows that was this incredible sculpture with pipes, with music coming out of it, and we really want to embrace the whole sculpture, art, music, every visual aspect as well as the sonic.
What's next? Do you know? I mean, you've sort of teased what with new Future Utopia things like that as well. But what's the kind of the next 12 months for Fraser T. Smith? Do you know? Is the diary kind of blocked out for working with? Because you must be inundated with offers of various things, not just albums and singles, but people wanting to work with you in different forms.
Yeah, I had another sort of edge of the cliff moment recently where I thought, is this it? Is this the thing? Not to sound dramatic, but just I think it's positive to question what you're doing and my role in music. And I think that I decided that I have to be fully invested in artists now moving forward for me to really nurture and protect and hopefully help and inspire a new generation of artists. So I set up a record company called 70 Hertz, and we have 2 artists signed at the minute that I'm really excited about.
Tell us who they are.
Wonderful artist called Emmeline and a rapper called Tix. And yeah, I feel like music moves really quickly now with artists coming and going into the studio, and I did that for a little bit, and I felt that wasn't for me anymore. So decided to set up the label and really have like a bigger say in artists' careers. So 70 Hertz set up, nurture. Yeah.
You must have seen how important that is for artists to have that support network, that kind of nurturing environment around them. Because I can't imagine everyone you've worked with has had that. No,
and I think that's where having a sort of the age gap is a really good thing. I mean, I sort of feel, every artist that I see that I've worked with that I see is doing well, like Dave and Stormzy, you feel that you've had this moment with them, which for about a year, I guess, their records to make, that you just feel this. I'm bursting with pride, when I saw Dave's performance at Wembley, when I see him play, you're literally from this kid that sort of wandered in when he was 17 to what he's doing now is like the greatest moment. So, yeah, to hopefully with 70 Hertz nurture a whole new breed of artists and to feel like you've really had a hand in that.
Yeah.
And that's a dream.
Amazing. What an exciting next chapter.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
The wonderful Fraser T. Smith, everyone.